This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
Hi, I'm just here with the captain, T-Bomb Terry Whaley. How are you doing, mate?
All good this week.
So, what do you think then? Should Tomo get the job?
Well, he's not put a foot wrong in my opinion. I know we've had a couple of bad performances, but we've not lost. So for me, I'd give it him till end of year, 100%.
Do you not fancy Mickey Mellon because he's being touted very heavily, isn't he?
I'm not sure, to be fair. I mean, anyone who comes in, I'll back him. Of course, I will. But I don't know enough about management at this level to comment on it.
I've heard there's a rumour that Bradford are interested in Neil Redfern, and after today, he's sort of going to give the board an ultimatum: give me and Tomo the job, or I'm going to Bradford. Do you think that'd be a massive loss if Tomo went with him?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'd give it them two definitely till end of the season. They've done well. Hopefully we get a good performance today, 3 points, and then as far as I'm concerned, the job's theirs.
What's the score today going to be, Tez?
I fancy a 3-1 win today.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Cheers.
Hi, what's your name, please, pal?
James Taylor.
Hi, James. You're meeting the sexy Dave Bradley for the fans only. You were eyeing me up in the corner over there. It's fair enough. So, what do you think? Do you think Tomo should get the job?
I think it depends how we play today.
It's still unbeaten in 5. It still depends.
I think if it's a good performance and a win today, then yeah. But after the last 3, with 3 iffy performances and a win and 2 draws, then I'm not so sure at the moment.
What would you take 3 iffy performances and 4 and potentially 5 points?
Potentially, but I think long term, we had the bounce with the first 2. I thought we were very good in both York and Oxford, but since then, I'm not so sure. We're good in the first half, but we seem to run out of steam a bit in the second.
But do you think that's just fitness and not having enough squad depth rather than managerial ability?
Potentially. It's also been Saturday, Tuesday, hasn't it? So you can, there's lots of arguments either way, but I think what we're about 11 games, 12 games into the season now.
Yeah.
That we should be fit. Our team fit by now.
Yeah, we should be. I just don't think the squad's deep enough, in my opinion. But you know, it's unbeaten in 5. It could be unbeaten in 6 today. What score do you think it'll be today?
Well, Dagenham haven't been greatest, but they tend to concede late on from what I've seen recently. Hoping for 2-0, 1 in each half, comfortable each half.
Yeah, a good second half performance is what we need, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean. I might have to press mute a few times. I've been doing a good impression. If you remember the Fast Show, do you remember Bob Fleming on the Fast Show used to break into fits of coughing and coughing up phlegm? I've been a bit like that this morning, so forgive me. I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not hungover. And I've made the 11:30 call, Andy. So it's all good. It's just a bit of infection in my system, but other than that, I'm very well. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's nice to start on time today, Matt. Nice for you. Nice to see you bright and early.
Yeah. Well, it was it was a good day yesterday. It was a beautiful day in Oldham yesterday. We've got to give a shout out to the Greyhound pub in Royton, because that was absolutely lovely before and after the game yesterday. Sat in the beer garden, and it's a nice pub. That's a lovely little pub. So I had a nice time there. Then went to Friends restaurant on Ashton Road, which is like a takeaway, but you can eat in. Really good food over there, lamb chops and kebabs and all that kind of stuff. And then I was home at a very sort of sensible hour, early-ish night. All good. Fired up to talk about Latics today, Andy. Did you get to see the game yesterday at all, or?
No, I'm not one of those VPN streamer people.
No.
I'm not really bothered. I've watched all the midweek games recently, so so I've seen most of the games. But I caught a bit of the commentary yesterday. But I was chasing my kids around the garden most of the day because, like I said, it was a lovely warm day. So,
well, don't worry, you're in good hands because I saw the game and so did our fan guest. So let's find out a little bit about them, shall we?
Yeah. Okay. So, presuming you should know the questions coming here. When was your first game?
November '97, Brentford at home, 1-1.
So was that the first year we were beginning our 21 years in League One?
It was, yeah. I sat in the main stand upper. I think we had the blue and red home kit at the time, with the stripes across.
That horrible hooped pony kit. Was worst kit. I hated that kit.
Yeah, that's what we had. 1-1 draw. I think it was like November time, freezing cold. And I just kind of like been going since then, really. Been at stages of going week in, week out, and then prolonged absences, and then week in, week out again. And
yeah. Who was your first favourite player?
Carlo Corazin. I have no idea why. He wasn't all that great looking back, but I absolutely loved him. He was my favourite player for a couple of seasons, and I loved him. Yeah, 4 goals against Wrexham. What's your favourite Latics related memory? So I debated this for a while because I knew this question was coming, and there's the obvious ones like at Forest away in the cup where we turn into like prime Barca for 10 or 15 minutes. But I think West Ham away in the League Cup 2002.
Corazin scored the winner, didn't he?
Corazin scored the winner. I was still in school. Me and my mate Gaz went down with his dad. We picked up a West Ham fan on the way, one of his dad's mates, and it was kids in for £1. So 2 days off school, and we won 1-0. And I was looking at, funnily enough, their team, just having a look the other day, and they had Carrick in there, Joel Cole,
Ferdinand,
David James in there. Now Ferdinand, he didn't play.
Right.
Titi Kamara up front with Defoe, and we were still unbeaten then away from home in November, Dowie season. So. Yeah. I think overall there has been some class ones, Liverpool at home, Forest away, but I think that West Ham one was my best.
It's a good one, yeah. And tell us a little unknown fact about yourself.
I appeared on the Beckham story that was on ITV1.
Did you?
Yeah, and
in what context?
Oh, it's quite embarrassing, mate. I was very young. I think I must have been about 11. I was quite impressionable. And my mate was like, Victoria Beckham's going Wolves today in Oldham. I was like, yeah, like I had a bit of a thing for Victoria Beckham at 11 years old. I was like, come on then, we'll go. He's like, David Beckham's going to be there, I was like, no chance. David Beckham's not going to be there. Mate's like, yeah, stick this on, United shirt. Passes me a United shirt. So anyway, I thought, so stuck it on, gets there, and it's just the camera just pans and just stops on my face for like 20 seconds and then just pans away. And when it was aired on ITV, I can remember the landline just went off its head. Everyone phoning, just you're Aaron on Beckham's story, Beckham. And I was like, I'll never live that down. But yeah, it's on YouTube now. You can still see it on there now.
Right, we'll dig that out and tweet it.
Yeah. It's just a little head, just there.
So this morning's guest is Aaron West. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Aaron. Nice to have you on, mate. You were telling me just before we started recording that you took your daughter to the match yesterday for her first experience at Latics. At 3 years old, so she'll do well to remember that one when she's on the pod in 20 years' time, won't she? Remembering that, but you'll remember it, won't you? It was a nice experience for you, bringing her along. It. She enjoyed herself, did she?
Absolutely loved it. She got. I was showing her the kits online throughout the week, and she went for the pink one, and she's still wearing it now. She's gone to. Is it SeaWorld at the Trafford Centre this morning with her mum, and she's gone wearing her Oldham shirt that she had on yesterday. So hopefully we've got another fan there.
Yeah, hopefully. So let's talk about the game. So there's obviously two things. There's two elephants in the room: an Asian elephant and an African elephant in the room. At the minute, it's one of them is the players, and are the players good enough, and the other one is the manager. And I'm not no issue with Steve Thompson, but who is going to be the next manager and when is that going to be announced? Because these are two things that really are going to define the season.
This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
Steve, Boundary Park alert system. You look a bit angry after that result today. Is it fair to say?
Yeah, I'm disappointed, to be honest with you, because everything we tell them, we leave no stone unturned. We do our own work on Dagenham. We tell them how to play. We try and play to a shape that suits us. We get into a shape when we're out of possession. It just disappoints me sometimes that it ends up like a basketball match, that you get into the final third, you don't make the right decisions, and then we're running 40, 50 yards back. So yeah, I'm a front foot, handle the ball, legs in the team, go and affect it. That's what I want, and I said before, you know, they need a little bit of a boost, these lads, to bring players in, because they're a good bunch. I've said this from day one. They gave you everything. But the pleasing thing today, a set play that we worked, but we shouldn't be. You know, when we get one, we've got to go for two. We've got to go for three. And it's not sitting back. I just think it's ball retention and our mentality to, if it's working, don't change it, instead of dropping back off. And we've got to change that, me and Redders.
In terms of you've alluded to the fact you want to bring 3 or 4 players in. That's what you think it needs. Is it the midfield area that you're most concerned about?
I think it's all round. You know, in the midfield, sometimes you need a workhorse in there. One can hit the box, or someone can handle the ball. That's what, you know. When I see these players here, I'm not one for big lads who want to tear up. I want someone who can handle the ball, who can create, who can score goals, who can see a pass. That's the sort of midfielder I want.
It's like a young Neil Redfern or a young Steve Thompson then.
Well, it's everybody's different. People want certain players. I know what sort of player I want in midfield, and it's not just the midfield. It's all round. You know, if I think that what we've got to do, if someone's better than what we've got to try and get them. You know, and it's all around the pitch, and they've got to bring something to the table, because at the moment they give us everything, but we're just lacking that little bit of quality.
Is it fair to say it's difficult to recruit at the moment with the managerial vacancy still live, and is it sort of recruitment on hold at the moment?
Well, it can't be on hold, because you know you can't just stop recruiting, because the scouts will go and find work elsewhere. So the scouts, I've sent the scouts out Tuesdays, Saturdays, just making notes of what we can get. You know, everybody's different what sort of players we want in there. So the remit at the moment is that whatever happens with the manager's job, that we've got players there, are they suitable for us, and that's to take the Oldham forward.
And we've got Altrincham coming up this week. We're still unbeaten, so it's still a positive, isn't it? You know, from where we were to where we are now. What are you going to be anticipating for that game?
Local derby. We'll be up for it. We'll get a week training into the legs. Probably give them Monday off just to charge the batteries. Tuesday we'll come in there. We've had a good open conversation with all the players in there. Me and Redders' expectations, because you've got staff in there who want to express themselves. Don't play with fear. Don't play with fear, because that's the last thing that we expect. If you're going to make a mistake, do it the right way and then get back after it. So I'm frustrated today because I see glimpses of what we do, and then I see a side where we just sit back and we can't get the ball, and we're kicking it anywhere, and that's what's frustrated me today.
Well, thanks very much, Steve. Thank you.
This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
We could talk a bit about the game yesterday, but it was basically, if you saw the Kidderminster game, the Wealdstone game, or the Maidenhead game, it's kind of similar. I think the difference is that we kind of got going yesterday against Maidstone in patches, but it was all just so predictable. They were inevitably going to equalise and score. I don't really think we got going any great distance yesterday. I thought we were poor. And I thought that we made it far too easy for Dagenham and Redbridge. They look really, really good. And I'm same with Maidstone. This is 2 teams that are down the bottom of the table. Fair enough with Wealdstone at home, because we know Wealdstone can knock it about a bit and stuff. But Dagenham haven't won in 5 games. All right, they didn't win yesterday, but their number 9 and their number 7 absolutely ran us to pieces. Based on that performance yesterday, what's he called, Effing Young or something? I'd get rid of Nuttall and Fondop and get him in, because he was absolutely fantastic in that role of the big striker put himself about. He was all over that front line from left to right, in the middle, crossing the ball, getting on the end of things. Absolute pain in the ass for our defenders. I thought Will Sutton was our man of the match. I thought he handled him pretty well. I thought he was the one player on the pitch who did well in his personal battles. But that's the main point I wanted to talk about, was personal battles yesterday on the pitch. I thought that too many of our players lost their personal battles on the pitch, and we didn't earn the right to play. And it was really, really frustrating, because it was the same against Maidstone. And it was inevitable that yesterday that we weren't going to win the game. We came very close at the end. Their keeper, the one that he got down to save at his right-hand post, was an absolutely brilliant save. But they turned it on, like, they got a little bit of energy in the last 5 minutes or in the injury time, and went for it. But like, it was incredibly frustrating to watch. So, Aaron, as the fan guest and as somebody who went yesterday, are these performances, are they on the players? Is it all down to them, or what?
I think it's a difficult one. I think a lot of it is on the players. Like you said, I think we started off really well yesterday. Got the early goal, well worked goal as well. And then when that goal went in, I actually thought, right, come on now, step on them, get another goal before half time. And it's game over pretty much, 2-0 up at half time. But we didn't. We scored, and we sat back and we stopped playing, and we didn't go for the jugular. They came at us. They was playing a lot of the. I mean, in the first half, my daughter got a bit upset, so we moved from where the athletic clothes were to the family stand, and I was attending to her a lot. But every time I did look up at the pitch, the ball was in our half near our net. They was coming forward to us. So. From what I've seen in the first half, you described it well. Like I say, we set up well, but the second half was just a continuation of what happened after we scored. They was on top. That, like you say, the goal was inevitably going to come, and it did. They quite quickly could have scored another straight after as well, but we had the chances at the end. I'd say we was probably the better team for the first 15 minutes and the last 15 minutes, but that middle 60-minute period. They was a lot better than us. For me, the midfield gets cut through too easy. It gets bypassed. The defence backpedaling. No one's going in and making the challenge. I think we actually we've got personnel that are good. I think a few players get stick that don't deserve it. Sutton, I don't think he deserves it. I agree. Great game yesterday. He's not a right back, but he's growing into that role game on game. He's getting much more competent. But I think we with our personnel at start, we struggle. We have some that are going to be suited to a wider game, like to get in wide green, for example. And we have more that would be better if we played a little bit narrower. And it's kind of we caught between two styles. And yesterday, Norwood in the second half, he was out on the left, and he put a ball into the box, and it bobbled down, and it bounced into a space where nobody was. And the keeper came and got it and cleared it. I said to the bloke next to me, I said, this is one of the problems we have. Norwood's getting dragged out of position, and where that ball landed is where you want James Norwood. If he's there when that lands there, he scores. We're in front. So I think what we need to do, whoever the new manager is that the midfield is a priority. We need to try something different and get a way of playing that's like an identity for us, because I think we're caught in between two styles.
I think one of the real sort of frustrating things is that when you look at the bench, you've nothing to change anything significantly. Like yesterday we had 3 strikers on the bench. And then we had who else? Shelton and the goalkeeper. So we only had Shelton to come on as an option. So the squad isn't as deep and balanced as it should be, as it needs to be. We've talked about it, Andy, before, about the recruitment. There was obviously, Unsworth was responsible. He's the manager. He had Steve Thompson in on his team. We discussed it before. It's a team decision, team effort. But people are going to get to call the shots, aren't they? It's always someone's going to be able to pull rank here and pull rank there and that kind of stuff. Ultimately, you'd assume it's on the manager. So we're left with a squad that I guess that Unsworth assembled in, taking responsibility for it ultimately. We heard the interview with Steve Thompson yesterday, and he's talking about us needing 3 or 4 players. I think we've already established that that's the case on the podcast. Andy, is it time for the board of directors to make a decision on the manager and get it done and dusted now? Because 6 games, no defeats. Steve Thompson knows the squad. He knows what we need. He knows the club. The fans like him. Is it time to give it to Steve Thompson or to just say, thanks very much, Steve, you've done a great job, bring somebody else in? Don't you think at either or we're getting to push or shove time?
Well, we definitely are. They're going to have to make a decision soon because you can't let it continue sort of dragging on because it'll affect everybody if they haven't got any certainty. So, yeah, but I mean, if you come back to some of those points that, you just made, recruitment over the summer, I agree with you. Obviously, David Unsworth would have had final say on anything. And we know, don't we, that even without sort of suggesting things that we might be aware of that is not public knowledge. You know that certain players were fancied by Steve Thompson and other players were fancied by David Unsworth, and there was a little bit of friction there. That was kind of obvious for everyone to see, and a little bit of positive friction is no bad thing. You don't everyone just be yes men. You want people to debate and reason and then come up with the right structure. But some of the players that have been brought in are self-evidently now, after enough time, not good enough. And so therefore recruitment has sort of failed over the summer. They haven't got the squad balanced properly. If they were recruiting for a system, I'm still not entirely certain what that was, whether it was 3-5-2 or 4-3-3 or what. And Steve Thompson's alluded to it in his recent interview by saying they need 3 or 4 more players, that they also can't keep changing the system because they're tinkering. I mean, I didn't see the game yesterday, so you guys can tell me what formations we moved in and out of. But, at the Maidenhead away game, we played 3 formations in that game at various points. And in midweek against who did we play midweek? Not Dagenham.
Who did we play midweek?
Yeah.
Maidenhead?
Or Maidenhead in week? No, Maidenhead was... Oh, sorry, who did we play away the other day then?
Wealdstone,
sorry. So yeah, all these part-time Southern Leisure centres mixing together for me. So yeah, Wealdstone we played 3 formations in the game, and Maidenhead we played a couple. So he cannot balance the resource he's got and make it work, which tells you that it's deficient, doesn't it? Because you just can't get anything out of it, and it almost doesn't really matter to a degree who they appoint as manager, because they're going to need to sort out recruitment, and I'm not sure who's the best to do that. So the obvious options at the minute are go with Mickey Mellon because he's the only experienced manager at this level who's available. Go with him, or you stick with what you've got, or you go with something entirely sort of left field. So you go with someone who hasn't necessarily got experience in this division, but has interviewed well. And I guess the thing that I'm sort of happy for them to do is if they're interviewing properly, they're recruited based on recommendation last time. It was a hand-picked recruitment. On face value, it was fine. It failed. So now they're going through a rigorous interview process, first, second interviews, narrowing it down and then making an appointment. So that's going to take a series of weeks. But I imagine they're coming close to the end of that now. I mean, there is a rumour that was flying around on social media last night that Frank Bunn's name has been thrown out there. I don't know how much veracity there is to that particular rumour.
There's always rumours, isn't there? And they're mostly false. So
yeah, they are. Yeah, there's a lot of other names I've seen.
I mean, I'm at the point now where I think I don't give it to Mickey Mellon. I don't think Mickey Mellon is the future of this football club. I think the manager think about between now and the start of next season, or now and the end of this season, at the end of this season, how many managers are going to come and go and change and be out of work and all that kind of stuff. The fact that they've left the manager, Steve Thompson, in this position for 6 games, he's not been beaten. He's brought in Neil Redfern, so it's a good team, a good combination of experience. They know what they need. I think just give them the job until the end of the season and then take it from there. I think they can see what's available come the end of the season. They can take the time. They can work with Steve Thompson to say, right, let's bring in the players, a number of players now and then if he does really well, he can keep the job. If he doesn't, he can bring somebody else in. But you've not disrupted the season to the extent where, everybody's playing for the players anyway, but like the new manager has to come in, he has to get to know people, he has to get to know his players. I think there's more chance of it being disruptive than having some good continuation.
Well, you've also got the issue, haven't you, of budget. I mean, let's be clear here, right?
Yeah.
We know that we are spending more than we're probably almost certainly going to make a loss this season anyway, and that's money that the Rothwell family have budgeted to lose to try and get us into the Football League. That is not that tap has to get turned off at some stage. Cannot just continually throw money at it all the time. So we may have a budgetary problem, which is that you have to move players out before you can move players in. So I think where I get to on it is I'm already sort of resetting my expectations or hopes, probably is a better word, for this season, which is if we can sneak into the top 7 and have a pop, great. But I don't expect us to any longer. I don't think we're good enough. If you look at the last few games, since Steve Thompson's come in, we've played 23rd, 22nd, 21st, 20th, 17th, and 15th in the table, and we're 12th. So every team that we've played on this run of 2 wins and 3 draws are right near the bottom of the league, and we're barely able to compete with them, truth be known. That Kidderminster game was, we were under the cosh for most of it, and the following 3 draws we had, same, we're in it for 10, 15 minutes, and then we just literally lose all idea and get completely overrun by our opposition. I think that's indicative of the squad isn't good enough.
So Aaron, then with that point, can somebody else come in and get more out of what we've got, or is it a management thing, or is it down to the players? Yesterday, Dagenham, Maidenhead, Dorking, these teams come up to Boundary Park. It's the biggest game of the season. Us and Chesterfield are the two proper stadiums with proper crowds. Like with all the history and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm sure that it raises their game an extra 10%. So our players know, all the big clubs in all the leagues around the world know that that's the case when club teams come to them. So they have to up the game. The first thing you have to do is you have to earn the right to play the game. You have to match up. You have to do all that. So is it possible that another manager can come in and get that out of the players, or are the players not taking responsibility themselves, or what?
I think it's definitely possible for another manager to come in and maybe get more out of them. Whether or not they do or not is another thing. Because one thing I will say is if another manager comes in and he does change it up and he does try something different, and we lose 2 on the bounce because he's trying something different. Because when you experiment, there's no guarantees that you're going to get the results that you want from that experiment. So if he comes in and we lose 2 on the bounce because he's tried something new, you know what it'll be like from the terraces. It'll be toxic quite quickly. If a new manager comes in and changes it and it works, then great. But I'm in the camp of I personally would give it to Tom Hall now till the end of the season, keep things as they are. So they've got a bit of clarity. We know where we are. He can maybe have a bit more time to get his ideas over, because like you say, when he's doing his interviews, he's not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. He's saying what everybody's seeing. So you know that he's identified the problem. That it then comes down to whether he can solve the problem that is identified, and that's where he will earn his money, and that's where any manager will earn the money. I don't think in the time that since Unsworth left that there's been enough time for him to completely change the style of play, or there's been no signings of new players or anything like that. We've been playing Saturday, Tuesday, which I don't think has helped in terms of getting his philosophy over or changing. But I'm confident, a lot more confident, when a manager comes out and says what you've seen, that they don't, all they have to do is follow up and fix the problems that they've identified. At least they are identifying the problems that everybody else is. And they're not kind of like blind to it. They're not coming out saying that they. I mean, how many games under Unsworth? And fair enough, I backed Unsworth for a long, long time, but how many times did he come out and say we were the better side when we clearly wasn't? And that's what I think fans can get behind. So yeah, I'm in the camp of I'd give it to Thompson till the end of the season. See what we can get out of the players. Get a couple of loan signings in if we can't afford to get any permanents in, and see where it goes. But I agree. I never really did expect us to be like top of the league. I think a lot of the time, as again, not generalising everybody, but we can kind of carry some arrogance. Some people think Oldham Athletic National League. Tell the other team not to turn up. The 3 points are ours. Do you know what I mean? And I think that sometimes does maybe carry over to some of the players. We have got a great squad, but I don't think it's as good as what everybody makes out. There's some good teams in here that have had settled squads that have got good players. And on this fact as well, I was thinking the other day, I know a lot about our squad. I could tell you bits about other teams, little bits, one or two players. And some people, you'd think they'd know every player inside out of the whole league. Or like, these are rubbish. And that's just not the case. You know a lot about your own team, but you don't really know much about other teams. So there is decent players out there. They're not picking. They're not falling around on a Sunday morning getting lads together to come and play Latics. You know what I mean? They've got good, decent squads throughout the division.
Well, we've seen it. So we've seen it over and over again that on the day, and what that means is on your day means when all the players are at it, when everyone's up for it and everyone's giving it 110%. Like on an occasion when they come to one of the biggest clubs and it's a scalp and they want the like they do when they come to Boundary Park. So more often than not, teams turn up at Boundary Park and they're on the game. It's a big game for them. It's a big occasion for them, and they can compete. We've seen it on their day. Every team in this league is dangerous, no matter who you are.
One thing I would say though, sorry. One thing that frustrates me a little bit, and I've seen it a lot, and I do agree with this, is with us being this bigger team in the National League with this decent squad, definitely playoff squad, as it is now, in my opinion, I would expect more teams to come to Boundary Park and try and park the bus. But they're not coming to park the bus. They're coming and they're playing us off the park. And I think if we was on top of teams, and we've all seen them games where you've battered somebody for 80 minutes and it's a draw, and yeah, you're disappointed that it's finished a draw, but you've been on top of the game and you know things are going in the right direction. It is really frustrating when you're being played off the park against what you perceive as much poorer sides.
The reason is for that, though, Aaron, is because the clubs are watching us. They're watching the games. They're saying if you get on, like we had, was it Mark White said he spoke to one of the other managers who said the fans will get on the back if you keep them, if you keep them off the ball, and so they know how to play us. They know how to play against us.
When that goal went in for Dagenham yesterday, for the next 5 minutes around where I was, the atmosphere really changed, and I could feel it, and I was like, come on, we can still win this. It's not game over, you know what I mean? And then a few other things happened. I know we spoke about it before we came on, but when Shelton came on, again, you've mentioned it on this pod loads of times, but Shelton got booed onto the pitch, and I cannot fathom how in that situation you're trying to get the win at home, booing somebody on is, I mean, personally, he has not been good enough for us. Let's be honest. I'm not saying he's been a brilliant signing. Don't boo him. I just think it's stupid to boo him when he comes on. And I was thinking about this. I had a job many years ago in sales, and I was based in Oldham at the time. I was really comfy, and I was really good at it. And then I got offered the chance to do the same job in Manchester, which I took because I thought and I got there, and it was like I'd never done the job before in my entire life. I physically could not. I don't know what happened. I just wasn't comfy. I didn't fit into the surroundings, and quite swiftly I moved on. And I think maybe that potentially is what best for Shelton. He might just not have fitted. It is obviously he's got some talent to be at the level that he's at, and I just don't agree with him being booed onto the pitch. And
yesterday, at least the substitution yesterday was Sheeran off and Shelton on,
yeah.
which that deserved a cheer, I think, rather than a boo, because it was like, well, at least it's not the two of them in together. Really, like Sheeran didn't have a good game yesterday. and that's not singling him out. I'm just saying he very rarely gets taken off the pitch, Sharon. Shelton came on, again, difficult position to come in and take control of. Lundstrom didn't really, again, we've got to give him time, but he didn't really, affect the game in the way that we're hoping to see. Green was very, very quiet again. Dickinson was quiet yesterday compared to what we've come to expect from him. So, and then Reed and Norwood, it's like potentially could be a good combination, but it didn't really work yesterday. I mean, so all over the pitch, it was just.
But you got to go through some of these players, right? This is part of the issue, right? Alex Reed is celebrated like he's a cult hero, right? Gets all the likes because of his social media profile, and everyone claps him and cheers him and that sort of stuff. And he's done well recently because he's got an eye for goal when he comes alive in that sort of 18-yard box. But he does literally nothing else. He cannot hold it up. He doesn't lay it off. He doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't. He's only got one attribute. And I remember.
And you know what, Andy? He had a chance yesterday on his right foot in the first half. He should have scored. And if he scores that, then I don't really care. We don't care too much about the other stuff, do we? He's got to be the guy who's getting you the 20 goals a season.
It's exactly the same argument about Fondop last year. When I don't think Fondop's good enough, right? And I don't think Steve Thompson does either. He's not even been on the bench for the last 4 weeks. He brought him on yesterday because he's just throwing now any dice he can. I think Steve Thompson. He's like, I've tried that one. That's not worked, so I'm going to get Fondop back and throw him on and just a bit of energy and see what happens. That is demonstrative that he's just hasn't. He's run out of ideas because we haven't got enough people to affect it. But Fondop went on a decent run last year, scoring some goals. But he's got to score every week because a lot of his other play probably isn't up to what I think. Alex Reed is in exactly the same boat. You can kind of see why David Unsworth didn't fancy him. Because he wasn't really if he doesn't score in a game, he does nothing else. Then you look around, it's the same with Sheeran and Shelton. So they run around a lot, and they'll tell us that the sort of running stats are some of the highest in the league, and they're fit lads. It's not about fitness, Steve Thompson said, or at least doesn't think it is. But they run around a lot and then give the ball away. So they're running around trying to get the ball that they've just given away. It's just it becomes pointless, really. You're going to have to get better players in there. So and Green was all right for in spells under David Unsworth when we were really sitting deep and hitting teams on the counter because he was fast and that was an asset in that sort of setup. But I don't think he's got much else to. He's not great at beating a man. He's not. So we've got loads of players that we're carrying in this team. Dickinson looks tired to me. I thought he was rubbish in the week against Maidenhead. I thought he had a really bad game for him. He's a good player.
He always looks tired, though. I don't know what the story is with him. He always seems to sort of like be kind of heavy in the way he runs and stuff at certain points in the game. But
I don't know how James Norwood played yesterday, but he looked. I mean, he comes from a better pedigree. You can physically see him getting frustrated with players, particularly in the week. I thought against Maidenhead, the first 15 minutes, I thought Norwood looked class, was showing like he was a cut above everyone else. But he had players not on his wavelength, not making the pass or not making the run or not anticipating stuff. And I think he gets frustrated quickly. And this is possibly unfair of me to say this, but I'm sort of trying to read his body language and imagining what he's thinking. And sometimes he just thinks, for crying out loud, oh, well, I'm here for the money anyway. So
I think there's an element of truth. There's an element of truth to that, Andy, I think. But also yesterday, I think this thing about what Steve Thompson said about something about the mentality. They weren't mentally sharp enough yesterday. They weren't dealing with things quickly enough. They weren't seeing things quickly enough, like as in seeing the pass quick enough, the touch, and then Norwood was guilty of this as well, like taking too many touches, not seeing what was on quickly, just too slow in reacting to things. And so I think that there is something of a mentality issue at the club amongst the players or whatever. And at the moment, there isn't this kind of ability to change things up. Green really should be dropped after the last couple of performances, but then it's kind of like, well, who plays out on the right hand side if you want to play a 4-4-2? We haven't really got anyone. Like that's ultimately the problem. creates all kinds of issues defensively because he's not a defensive-minded player at all. So playing him as a right midfielder, he doesn't do any favours to Will Sutton, who's behind him. If he's not affecting the game going forward, then he's just not affecting the game at all. So it's really frustrating because we just don't have. People say that this squad's good enough. This squad isn't good enough because when you talk about a squad, you're talking about the ability to bring players in, to fill gaps, to change things around. The squad is unbalanced and it's not got the strength in depth in the key areas. The defence, I think I'm going to give up some credit to the defence. I think the defence have been playing really well. Hudson made good saves again yesterday. I thought he did quite well. Hogan as a leader has certainly come on. And this is another point I wanted to make. There's not enough leaders. Again, there's not enough characters on the pitch taking the game by the scruff of the neck. Talking about fitness as well, these are professional athletes, right? So they have got all week, every week, to stay fit, to push themselves. If they don't feel that their fitness is good enough, they don't do anything else, or they train and they play football. So if they need to improve their own fitness, improve your own fitness, work harder, stay later, go to the gym, do more running, whatever it is. So the responsibility for fitness is not on the club; it's on them as professional athletes. There is a joint responsibility, obviously, but like ultimately, they can't blame anybody for not being fit enough because that's their job to be fit and ready, right? And then the other thing then is these characters, leaders on the pitch, affecting the game, taking tough decisions, doing things, bollocking each other, motivating each other, leading from the front. It's just not happening. And obviously they were accountable for that under Unsworth as much as Unsworth was accountable for what he did and didn't do. And I think they all need to sit around and have a chat with each other and figure out what it is that is holding them back, because something, whether it's mental or whatever, is holding them back, and we're not seeing the best of them. So is it the manager is it up to a new manager to come in and to do that? Is it Thompson? Like you said, we were just chatting before we started, Aaron. It's the FA Cup next week away at Altrincham in the round before the first round, and he's got a bit of time now. There's no midweek game. You can get them on the grass and do some stuff with them. We can't really bring in like another team for next week, the way that sometimes you might do, because we haven't really got like another team. We've only got like what our best team is really. So,
but our best team is not as good as Alti's best team. Have you seen the form?
Yeah, they're in great form, aren't they? So it's going to be really, really tough next week. There, Aaron, you were saying that you're not bothered about the FA Cup, but Andy, going back to what you were saying about budgets and obviously improving the squad, I mean, getting to the third round of the FA Cup and getting a good draw is really, really important to try and claw back some of those losses. And it is an important competition. It's a very, very tough game that we've got away at Altrincham, but I'm looking forward to it, mate, because it's a cup game and I love cup games. So, but I would like to see us get to that. Financially, I'd love to see us get into the third round draw, because everything helps. We need to improve the squad, and we could do with the club, we could do with the squad generating some funds for the owner, rather than the owners having to generate them for themselves, really.
Yeah, that's a good point with the funds that you can get from the FA Cup. But just going back a second to the Norwood conversation, I watched him yesterday. There was a point where he was making a run in the second half, and Hogan had the ball, and he didn't even look in his direction. And I could see in Norwood's body language then, he was like, fucking hell, like he'd made the run and he wasn't even. And then there was a moment in the second half that just kind of like summed up what happens to 20, 30 goal a year strikers at Latics. When Norwood, I don't know if you've seen this, Matt, he had the ball in the box about to shoot and fell over the ball. And I said to the ball next to me, I said, that's what happens when Oldham Athletic sign 20 goal season strikers. This is what happens to them here. They fall over the ball. And I mean, it was unfortunate. But going back to what you just said about the FA Cup, it can obviously bring good funds into the club. It's good prize money for winning, especially once you get into the FA Cup proper. We've had top FA Cup memories, saying it before, Forest, Liverpool, Everton. But for me, I would happily go out next week to Altrincham and focus purely on the league. I'd be happy for us to go to Alty next week, try a new system, and see what he does. But I think we've touched on it. For me, at the top of the field, we've got a good. We've probably got too many forwards in this squad.
We've got too many forwards, but we've only scored 20 goals.
Yeah. We've got too many.
And if you look at other teams in the league around us, like Chesterfield have scored 36. Even Gateshead have scored 34, right? So 20 goals. I mean, to Matt's point, we've only conceded 19, that's 2 less than Chesterfield, who conceded 21. So probably at the back, we're not as bad as, but given all these
the middle of the park,
the riches we've got, we just don't create for them.
The middle of the park is I think we've got a team, a promotion challenging players for defenders. We've got promotion challenging attackers, but we are weak as piss in the middle of the park, and that is going to cause us a problem for the rest of the season, regardless of the manager, if we cannot change some of the personnel in the middle of the pitch.
Well, ultimately, it's making the defence work extra hard because they're, and that's why I've got to give a shout out to them, because I think they're dealing with the pressure that they're being put under really well. And the strikers aren't getting the support they need in terms of the quality of the passes that they need, and also in terms of the numbers. Like there was an incident yesterday where like you said before about Norwood being pulled out of position and things like that. That the ball dropped in the box. Now, when I used to play midfield, like this is a long time ago now, but in my glory season, I scored 21 goals from midfield. That was what that when the ball dropped in the box after an attacking move, as in one of the midfielders, you're busting your gut. You could see what was going to happen. You've got to follow in that ball.
When you say it like that,
you know what I mean? It's got to be your intention. I'm getting that when that ball drops into that, I'm a midfielder. I'm bombing in. I'm going to finish that. I'm scoring that, and that's got to be the attitude. And it wasn't there at all.
When you describe it like that, as you was describing it like that as a midfield player to come down, and obviously this is levels above where I'm at, but straight away in my head, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard just popped into my head. Like, you're right, the ball drops down in the middle of the box, comes down, bang, they're on it.
Yeah,
and I know it's a lot higher levels than what we're at.
But it's the same thing when a ball bounces in a penalty area. It's the same in any penalty area. It doesn't matter. And if there's time and the space, if it's all about who's got the most desire to get to the ball first, and like that. So it's that kind of stuff where it's not. I'm trying to think. Dickinson's been scoring for us. Green's got a couple for us. I don't think the defenders have chipped in with many, have they? I'm not too sure. The goals have all come from the strikers, haven't they? They're not.
Score at Gateshead.
Yeah, but he did. But as a rule, it's kind of like spread amongst basically Norwood and Reed, isn't it?
I think as well, when you look at our squad, when we have got a lot of players in. I mean, you look at midfield. I know there's a few players out, but we I think it's important that we do shift some, because we're in danger on a smaller scale of becoming a little bit like the Chelsea of non-league. We've 30, 40 players again in the squad. How do you keep them all happy? So I'm sitting here saying, he said, we need a new midfield. I completely understand that it's just not that easy. I understand that we can't just go and sign another 4 players and that's it, problem solved. I'm not trying to be blind to that, but either way, one way or another, the problem is the midfield, and that needs addressing.
Part of the issue we've got is we've just given Nathan Sheeran an extension on his contract. I'd like to know if that was an appearance-based thing or whether someone sanctioned that, because I think it's madness personally. Because whilst he runs around a lot and gets stuck in, he's got a lot of deficiencies in certain areas which catches out, and so we've given him another year. So there's a financial commitment to him. Have we got at least another year, possibly more on Shelton? So if you're looking at replacing some of these players in the middle of the park, and Danny Gardner's made of biscuits, right? So I think he's out for
you can't rely on him, can you? He's not somebody you can rely on to get you up that league.
So you've got all your central midfielders there. Really, you could do replacing all of them. You've got to shift them out. You can't do that if no one will take them on. And the other risk of trying to sign players in the middle of a season, like the middle of last season. Who did we sign in the season? We signed Shelton, we signed Alex Reed, we signed one or two others maybe during the middle of the year. Is you're signing players that other teams don't want, right? And that you're not signing players at the end of their contracts who've maybe got options. You're not signing in demand players. So like if you look at Hobson, I mean, what a player he looks like. What a great signing he is. But he had options, and we convinced him that we were the best one. He's probably
I mean, we signed Joseph Yarni, didn't we, during the season last season, and he had an impact. I think there are fines out there. But I think we really need to think, and this is where about like with Thompson and Redfern now, like however that is they want to play, does that match up with? I don't know, the club, we don't have a director of football, so it is very much on the manager. So their views of that compared to anybody else who's being interviewed, what do they want? Do we need, if we brought in a wing back, for a right-sided wing back, and we played 3 centre halves and we played with the 2 proper wingers, and we had a few more, we've got Dan Ward, we've got Josh Lundstrom, we've got Dickinson. Is that the easiest way of sort of like recruiting so that we've got a team and a way of playing without having to buy in too many more players? That you could argue that 2 up top, we've got the midfielders. Arguably we need more bodies in there, so we can put Sheringham in there, we can put Gardner in there when he's fit. We've got Lundstrom, Ward, Dickinson. You've got Green to come off the bench as and when maybe you need a bit more pace up front. But I think he is more of an impact player because he's not going to give you consistent 90 minutes week in, week out, and he's definitely not a wing back. But then we fall down if Mark Kitchen has an injury or gets suspended or whatever, because without him, where's our threat? Where are the deliveries?
If that was to happen now, the way we've been playing, I've said this exact thing to someone yesterday. If Kitchen was injured or suspended right now, we would carry next to no attacking threat because we also
wouldn't even have a left back.
Yeah,
so you'd have to recall Benny Couto from Ashton United.
We would. We just because we don't have a left. I'll be like next thing. It'd be like, right, Will Sutton, you've done a great job at centre half and right back. It's time to go and play left back now. You go over there, son. And then Raglan comes back into the team or whatever. So
where is Raglan, by the way? I know Hallam Hope's injured, and I know Danny Gardner's injured, but Raglan we've not heard anything about. What's the matter with him?
I don't know why he wasn't on the bench. It seemed like a strange one for me yesterday. I don't know why you would put Fondop and Nuttall on the bench and not have defensive cover. It seemed like a strange one. So I don't know. I was a bit surprised when we had 3 attacking players and no defenders on the bench.
He came on at Wealdstone and looked perfectly fine then.
I'd like us to maybe, and I'm sure they are at some point, looking into the loan market, because we seem to have gone from one extreme to another with loans. We had a lot in like when we came down from League Two, and then the squad was full of them, and now we have none.
I think. In order to, I think fair enough. Like loans can be very effective, but in order to come full circle, wrap it up, and get ready for Latics mind, I think the key thing is the club the manager needs to be confirmed, and then they're allowed to get on with recruiting extra players, bringing in loans or whatever, bringing in other players. So I think from the message to the board now is like it's time to shit or get off the pot. Give it to Steve Thompson and Neil Redfern until the end of the season, or bring a new manager in and let's move forward. Like let's let decisions can be made.
What about Leslie Mark Hughes?
No thanks.
I think if it was April the 1st between the hours of sort of 9 o'clock and 12, then it might be worth an announcement.
I'd give it to him, and then I'd sack him an hour later.
Oh God, imagine! No, that's a non-starter.
I'd be piss boil on ultimate levels. That one.
Oh, imagine.
Talking about the sort of piss boiling. We need. I'm honestly not going on Twitter very much at the minute. It's not enjoyable. I can't be bothered looking at it. And like I said, I'm sort of at the point of view like it's disappointing that we're probably going to blow another season of not being competitive. Right? That's how I'm feeling about it. It's disappointing. But is it the end of the world? No. The end of the world was losing my football club altogether. And I'm still sort of have the warm glow of security wrapped around me, where I still think to myself, well, the point is, like, if a club's been in turmoil, look at how long is it going to take for Scunthorpe and Southend to right themselves from where they've been, and and other clubs. How long has it taken? How long does it take Luton to sort of turn the tide on their fall years and years back? Look where they are now. So I sort of say to myself, it's going to get better, and it's going. I want it to get better soon, but I might have to accept it's not soon. But it'll get better one day, because it can't not get better if you have competence behind the scenes, which we have. Now, they're going to make mistakes. The other thing I keep thinking as well is for the Rothwells, who are doing this for the first time, then this last year has been an enormous learning curve for them, right? They've learned this year what works and what doesn't work in appointments and structure and recruitment and management, and they're going to have learned a lot. So this interview process now, even if they get this one wrong, right? If this manager doesn't work out, the next one, whoever gets appointed, let's say it's Steve Thompson and Neil Redfern, we don't get into the playoffs, then they get to go again. And each time, incrementally, we're going to get better. So yes, I am still zen because it is going to get better. And moaning about it and whinging about it all the time, I just don't. I mean, if you want to vent, fine, but I don't think it does anyone any good, you know?
I think.
Yeah, go on, Aaron.
Sorry, mate. I think you've hit the nail on the head. You know, every decision being made at the club at the moment is either for the benefit of the club or the benefit of the fans. You're not second guessing anything that's going on. So that's a huge weight lifted off everyone's shoulders, compared to the last regime and compared to the end of the regime before that. Yeah. And I think that like you say, it's all about perspective. It's not the end of the world if we don't go up this year. Would I like us to? Yes, of course I would.
Absolutely.
But I know the club's in safe hands at the moment, and like you say, it will get better.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, right, the board and the people that are responsible for recruiting managers and setting the tone, the agenda, and success, they'll be judged on it in time, because and they'll either get it right or they won't. And then if they don't, then it'll be on them, won't it? Well, that's the way it goes. At this stage in the development of the football club, they made an appointment, it didn't work. This appointment is now really, really important. So what they've got to weigh up is it better off to stick with what they've got and arguably rock the boat a little bit less by giving it to Redfern and Thompson, or do they have a fantastic candidate lined up ready to go? It would suggest to me, the fact that they've had 6 games, that there isn't a fantastic candidate lined up ready to go. But I think either way, it needs announcing, and then everyone can just kind of focus on the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens. But Andy, have you got the questions lined up for Aaron?
I have.
Aaron, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
This is the payoff in it for having to come on. You get to come on the pod, but you do have to sit through and face the Latics Mind Inquisition. So if you're both ready, I'll crack on with the music.
Which Jamaican forward did Latics sign on loan from Bolton Wanderers in November 2003?
Jermaine Johnson.
Correct. Gunnar Haller arrived in January 1991. Which midfielder arrived from Hibs on the same day?
Pass.
Who did Latics sell Tommy Wright to in the summer of 1989?
Leeds United.
Wrong, Leicester City. David Unsworth didn't quite manage a year in charge. Who was the last manager to achieve that milestone?
Dino Maria.
Wrong, it was Lee Johnson. Who was Jimmy Frizzell's ex-England coach as assistant?
Pass.
Who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in 1993-94?
Manchester United.
Correct. What colour was Latics away kit in 2014-15?
White.
Wrong, it was luminous yellow. Who was Latics' top scorer in 2011-12?
2011-12. Jesus. Pass.
Who did Chris Killen play international football for?
New Zealand.
Correct. Which country did Rodney Jack represent whilst playing?
Trinidad and Tobago.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Which former Latics manager was Bobby Robson's assistant at Newcastle?
Neil Warnock.
Wrong, it was Mick Wadsworth. Who was top scorer for Latics in who was top scorer in Latics 2002-2003 playoff season?
Wayne Andrews.
Wrong, it was David Ayres. Who scored Latics' first goal in a 2-0 win at Scunthorpe in March 2018?
March 2018. Pierre Gianni.
It was Patrick McElhaney. You got through a mountain of questions there, Aaron. That is how to play this game, isn't it?
You don't know it, pass it.
Pass if you don't know. You got through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And no one's got through that many questions before. Now I've got to top them up. How many?
Top of that leaderboard then.
Yeah, top of that leaderboard. You got 3 right, which is good. So that's more than good enough average. How many passes did you have? You had 1, 2, 3 passes in there, I think. Gunnar Haller arrived in January 91. Which midfielder arrived from Hibs on the same day? Matt?
Paul Bernard.
Paul Kane.
Oh, yeah, Paul Kane, yeah.
Who was Jimmy Frizzell's ex-England coach assistant? Bill Taylor. Who was top scorer for Latics in the 11-12?
It's going to kill me, this.
The Flying Finn.
Oh, Shefty.
Yeah. Not bad though, Aaron. 3.
Better than 0.
It is.
Glass half full.
Yeah, exactly. Glass half full, which is where we are with Latics, isn't it, Aaron?
Yeah, definitely.
Glass half full. Might as well be positive. Might as well be happy. It's pointless moaning about it. It was one of the reasons we invited Aaron on. It's funny this because we invite people on as fan guests when they've got a particular point of view on a topic, and then by the time we get them on the podcast, that subject matter's long gone. I think Aaron was like one of the lone voices at the point that the anti-Unsworth out brigade were like at fever pitch, and Aaron was like, "Just chill out." Like,
yeah. I think sometimes going back to it's easy to get. We all get frustrated, don't we, at the games, and it seems sometimes like there's a competition over who can get the angriest on Twitter about it, and it's sometimes I look at it, I think Jesus Christ, it is what it is. You have no effect over it, so don't get so angry over it.
Absolutely agree, and sometimes it's not as so much a competition. I agree with you, by the way. I think it's not so much a competition; it's performative. So some people are going onto social media in a fit of rage because they're performing for everyone else to see them do it.
Yeah, and I don't understand. You just look like an absolute idiot, don't you? You look like a child who can't get it. I mean, my daughter does this in Asda's or whatever when I say no to her, and she starts having this performance of rage, like I can't have that, and it's a tantrum. It's an online tantrum.
Yeah,
and sometimes you just need to take a big chill pill, look at the wider picture. The club's in good hands. The right decisions are being made. We're moving forwards. Things will get better. The midfield will get better. The team will get better. And ultimately, once we're up there, we'll be at the top. Everyone will come united. But what I do stand by is we overreact to draws at home.
I mean, we're unbeaten in 6 games. We've won 3, we've drawn 3. Arguably, we should have won 1 or 2 more of those games, but still unbeaten in 6. So, the FA Cup on Saturday, I think it'd be nice to go there and win, especially after last season's absolute turgid performance at Altrincham. But yeah, I just wanted to keep this unbeaten run going as well. I think it's important, even if it's in the FA Cup or whatever. Let's keep this unbeaten run going, and then we've got Rochdale away.
If we turn them over at their place, everyone's then positive again, aren't we? I mean, we're within touching distance now of the playoffs. And 6 games ago, I know it was still early in the season, and you see people saying, "Oh, no chance of the playoffs now." Still very early in the season, 6 games ago. If we win at Rochdale next week or the week after, everyone's
totally. We've got there's plenty of time. Totally, chance of getting in the playoffs is well on. But I think we've got 3 away games now on the bounce, local. We can sell them out. We can show what we're all about. Like, get down to Altrincham and Rochdale and Fylde, pack out the away end, make loads of noise, and let's win some away games, and let's get, and hopefully have that manager position permanently filled, and let's push on, and hopefully the players will rise to it, and this season is not over. It's our full, Andy.
Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter, or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics football phone-in every Wednesday live from 8:30pm. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.